continue on with what you're doing. We'll continue the meeting, but if at any time we feel that you are again acting inappropriately, we will ask you to be removed. Do you understand that? Answer me. Do you understand that?
Well, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Would you like to come before us now with your complaint?
Beg your pardon?
Do you understand that?
I'm sorry, could you speak up?
Then maybe you should sit closer.
We're confusing you?
There was a question. What was the question? I'm sorry, I was looking at this.
Maybe you should rewind your tape and see what the question was.
I'm just here to not interfere at all.
Really? You've done a great job at that. We're here to address your complaint, Mr. Harrington. Would you like to come before us and say what is on your mind?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. My name is Stephen Harrington, longtime resident of Arlington. And what I'd like to do is just talk to you about the situation in Mount Pleasant Cemetery. There's two related problems. The first is that the cemetery is used as a cut-through to avoid the traffic on Chestnut and Mystic Streets. And so the traffic tends to back up along Chestnut and Mystic, and Sachem Ave has no gate. It's one of the few cemeteries that I've seen in Massachusetts that actually has sort of a back door, and it's used primarily as a cut-through. And on any given day, you can see dozens, if not low hundreds, of trips from Sachem Ave and through. And the roads really aren't designed to handle that. You can see, if you go to St. Paul Cemetery in Arlington, Oak Grove in Medford, Lexington, if you go to Westview in Lexington, the road surfaces are very good. And even in this cemetery, if you go over to the sections that aren't used as a cut-through, the roads aren't in bad shape. For instance, in front of this chapel, the roads aren't bad, and the grass comes right up to the road surface. But from the front gate all the way to the back entrance at Sachem Ave, you can see that the road surface is decayed, and that erosion's taking place, there's not proper drainage and what have you. And so the roads really weren't designed to handle, it's not a public way as far as I know. In addition to that, you have a parking issue. Now, going back to your minutes. In 2007, you said how it was a long-standing problem. In 2008, you can look at the overhead shots of the cemetery. There's 18, 20 cars parked in Sachem Ave. 2008, you said it was a problem. 2008, you also complained about people cutting through the cemetery. You had Lieutenant Conroy here stating it's a problem. He advised that maybe you could put up a gate at the bridge, which didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. You could just put a gate at Sachem Ave. If you look at 2009, 2010, every year for the past 6 years, at least twice, this body has noted that parking in the cemetery, and it's particularly along Sachem Ave, is a problem. So this isn't a new problem. 2 years ago I came because my family members, I have 7 family members buried along Sachem Avenue, and we had to come for a internment. And there was a ditch because the road surfaces can't handle the heavy equipment. And you're putting, I see that the fire chief is here, and his vehicles weigh 10, 15 tons, and the road surface can't handle it, and it's broken down, and it creates a ditch all along Sachem Ave. And you can see that yourself. You don't need me to show you photographs of that. And you can see that the ditch fills with water, further eroding the surface, and then people park up further onto the grass side, further encroaching upon the graves. It's so bad now that if you go down Sachem Ave on the left, you'll see that all the tree roots are exposed. Those trees are going to fall down. And people have taken to parking even further on the grave sites. I have photographs that I'd be happy to share with you that actually show 2 tires well onto a grave site. I have pictures of tread marks going across grave sites. I noticed that you had fixed at the bottom of the bridge there, where people had made the corner cutting through, also in the same area. I saw that you had placed a berm there this week, but it actually was going over the person's headstone, you know,
There's no
the marker,
headstones there.
the marker. And so, you know, it's a really bad practice to allow. Now, we all know that it's municipal employees who are parking in the cemetery. And we know that it's specifically the police and the fire department. And it's their private vehicles. It's not the vehicles that they use for work, for the most part. And it's turned into a parking lot. And this isn't something new. This has been going on for 6 years. And the town manager told me that they plan to do this for at least 2 more years. And so it's not in reaction to some type of construction that's taking place or road work taking place. This has been going on for a long time. And there's plenty of alternatives. And I don't think that this body really cares about the alternatives outside the cemetery, but I really think that you should care about what's occurring inside the cemetery. This is one of the only cemeteries that has no gate at a back door. You could easily, you don't have to spend any money at all. You could put 3 orange barrels, do not enter. You could put sawhorses, do not enter. And that would take care of the problem. You could remove them when you needed to go there for a funeral. It would be easy to do. It's in your control. My understanding is that you're an appointed board, and that as an appointed board, you're on your 100th anniversary of it. Town meeting allowed the selectmen to appoint you in 1913. You're under the supervision and control of the Board of Selectmen, but that doesn't mean you don't have the authority to set regulations in the cemetery. And I want to thank the cemetery workers for putting up curbing and some signs that say no parking except for cemetery business. But unfortunately, without a regulation that isn't enforced, as you see people park right in front of those signs, it's not just people, and it's municipal employees. And it's not the ones just when they're at work. I sat there for one 45-minute period a couple weeks ago, and there's actually contractors who are parking in there with their equipment. There's town employees on their day off who have a contracting business who are parking their vehicles in the cemetery. Anytime you can see 20, 30, I saw 50. And what set me off this time is when I tried to come into the cemetery to meet with a monument person to have a marker or a monument changed for my brother, I couldn't get anywhere near the gravesite because there was so many cars parked. And people have told me repeatedly that they can't even come near where their loved ones are because there's no parking anywhere close. And so I think you have an obligation, and I'd like to understand why you don't put a barrier to stop both the transit through the cemetery, and you don't put a barrier to stop people from parking in there. Thank you.
Is that all you have to say?
Yes.
So I expect answers to my questions when I address them to you. Do you understand me?
To my best ability, I'll try to help out.
So my first question is that with all of your going to various bodies regarding this issue, why did you not come to us first?
That's the same question you asked me 2 years ago. And
That's right. I asked you 2 years ago that question.
Would you like me to finish the answer?
I'd love it.
So 2 years ago you asked me, and my brother passed away in July. So this was the anniversary when I tried to get to the gravesite this year. And in July you had just had your meeting, and I didn't even know about the Cemetery Commission. And what I had done is actually contacted the town manager, figuring that it's his employees, and it is his employees. And so I contacted him, and the Board of Selectmen were meeting the very next Monday, and we were going to